Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, everyone?
Fine.
Fine, ma'am.
Have you taken your breakfast?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So today I am going to discuss the rural credit market. The reference of this chapter is Hussein M. and Bias A, 2015. This and their book's name is Leading Issues in Rural Development, page 112 to 116. Okay.
Yes.
In this chapter, we will study rural credit market, credit policies of rural credit market, and source of credit and market share, and NGOs and microfinance revolution, and finally we will discuss the utilization of credit. Today I am going to discuss the rural credit market and credit policies of rural credit market and the sources of credit and market share. Okay?
Okay.
So first of all, what do you mean by rural credit? So any loan taken for agricultural purpose or small home businesses across the rural areas is known as a rural credit. Okay? That means any loan taken for agricultural purposes or small home business across the rural areas is known as rural credit. So here we can see one information. 55% of rural households accessed credit in 2013, and 44% of them got credit from commercial banks and NGOs. This source is Abul Bayas, which is published in 2019. So that means we can see here in 2013 that the total household accessed the credit which is 55%, and among them 44% of them got rural credit from commercial banks and NGOs. Okay. So now we will discuss what is the main demand for credit in rural areas. So number one is in rural areas, the main demand for credit is for crop production. And number two, crop production involves considerable cost on seeds, fertilizer, pesticides, water, electricity, repair of equipment, etc.
It is.
Etc. That means the input of agriculture. Okay.
Yes.
And number three, farmers usually take crops loan at the beginning of the season and repay the loan after harvest. So actually we can see here the characteristics of rural credit. Okay, so how many points we get here? One is the demand for rural credit is for
Crop production.
okay. Number two,
Crop production involves considerable cost.
yes. Okay.
Fertilizer,
Number three,
pesticide,
yes, pesticides,
water,
water,
electricity.
Electricity, and repair of equipment, etc. And that means the input of agricultural sector. Okay, and number three is
Farmer
when,
usually taken crop loans.
when at the
Beginning the season of repay the loan after harvest.
Okay, so we can see here the duration of the loan of a rural areas. Okay, so normally farmers wants to get loan at the beginning of the season, and normally they repay the loan after harvesting. That means when they receive the crops and they sell it in the market and they repay their loan. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now our next topic is the credit policies of rural credit market. So to improve credit business targeted for farmers and small enterprises, some qualitative changes have been introduced in the credit delivery system. So for improving our farmers and small enterprises, our government has been taken some qualitative changes. So which is this? So these are, number one is the monitoring cell of central bank. Okay, so what is the point? So the monitoring cell of central bank has been strengthened, ensuring transparency in the credit business and reducing the transaction cost for obtaining credit by borrowers. So here the central bank has been monitoring two things. One is the ensuring the transparency, okay, and
Yes,
number two is the reducing the transaction cost. Actually, transaction cost. Okay, so number two is priority is given to credit support for women. Okay.
Yes.
So the number two, priority is given to credit support for women in agriculture to increase women's participation in the economic activities. Okay. So number two is priority is given to credit support for women in agriculture. For what? To increase women participation in economic activities. Okay. And number three, emphasis has been laid on development of marketing facilities for agricultural product to ensure fair price. That means the in case of credit delivery system, we can see here the number three is we have to improve the marketing facilities, okay, so that our farmer can get the fair price for their crops. Okay, so number three, emphasis has been laid on development of marketing facilities for agricultural product to ensure for price. And then number four, priority is given to reach credit to relatively impoverished and neglected regions such as that means island, and Howard and coastal
Coastal area.
area. So that means when the loan is provided, that time the authorities should give priority the neglected region. Okay. And number 5, the central bank made it mandatory for the state-owned commercial banks and private as well as foreign banks also to allocate at least 2% of their loan portfolio for agriculture. That means central bank made it mandatory for the state-owned bank, or
Commercial
private others, commercial bank, private bank, okay, and even foreign banks. Of course, they have to provide 2% loan of their total loan portfolio for agriculture. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. This one, the government take this step to improve our agricultural sector. Okay. And now, so we get the total, we discussed here, for total 5 credit delivery system. So one is monitoring cell of central bank. Number 2 is priority to given to credit support for women. Okay. And number 3,
Priority is given to
development of market facilities. Okay. And number 4, what?
Priority is given to risk.
Neglected region. Okay. And number 5,
সরি ম্যাম আমি ডিসকানেক্ট হয়ে গেছে আমার ওয়াইফাই ছিল না তো মানে নেটটা প্রবলেম করতেছে
okay. So priority is number so number 4 is priority is given to neglected region. Okay.
Yes.
And number 5,
কমার্শিয়াল ব্যাংক আর ফরেন যে ব্যাংক রয়েছে এদের অ্যাট লিস্ট পুরো লোনের 2% থাকতে হবে এগ্রিকালচারের জন্য।
okay. Okay, good. And now our next topic is sources of credit and market share. So and these that the sources Hussein and Bias 2019. So now we will see the sources of and market share in a rural credit. Okay, rural areas. So we the first column shows the sources of loan. So we can see here there are 4 types of sources of loan. So one is commercial banks, number 2 is NGOs and MFIs, and number 3 money lenders, and number 4 friends and relatives. Okay. So can you tell us how many sources of loan are available in our rural area?
4, ma'am.
So what are the sources? One is commercial bank. Number 2, NGO and MFI. NGOs, that means non-government organizations. Okay.
Money
And
lender.
MFI. And MFI, microfinance
institutions.
Microfinance institution. Okay. Number 3, money lender.
Money lender.
And number 4, friends and
Friends and
relatives.
relatives.
Okay. So anyone tell us the 4 sources of loan for a rural credit?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Commercial bank, NGOs, MFLs, money lenders, friend and relatives.
Use the number 1 like this. Number 1, number 2. So number 1.
Commercial bank.
Commercial bank.
Okay. And then
Number 2, NGOs or
NGO.
MFLs.
MFIs. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Number 3,
Three,
money lenders.
For
Friend and relative.
okay, good. So our we can see here the rural areas we get 4 sources of loan. One, commercial bank, and number 2 is NGOs and MFIs, and number 3 money lenders, and number 4 friends and relatives. Okay, so these 4 types of sources of loan, how is their share in market? Now we will see that on. So we can see here in our data. So household borrowings from the sources. So we can see here in 1988, commercial banks, from commercial bank, household takes 9% loans. And after 20 years, in 2018, it has decreased and it was around 4%. Okay. And if we want to discuss the share of the sources in total, so you can see here that among the total loan, the commercial bank provided only 20% loan in 1988. And after 20 years, in 2018, it was almost same, 21%. Okay. And in case of NGOs and microfinance institutions, you can see here the household borrowings from the sources in 1988, it was 3.8%, and it has increased and it was 34%. Okay. Yes. And if we see the share of sources in total loan, then you can see in NGOs and MFIs provided loan only 6%, but in after 20 years, in 2008, it has it was the 37%. So we can say here the contribution of NGOs and MFIs is become very high, right? Yes. And one more things now. So money lenders, okay? Money lenders provided loans in total share. We can see here the 33%, and in 2080 it was 26%. Okay. So here the money lenders provide 39% in 2000. In 2088, 39%, and it has decreased. And 2018, it was 14%. So we can get conclusion that the money lender, the provide of loan from money lenders has decreased, right? This one is good for our farmer, right?
Yes, sir.
Because
yes,
their condition was very hard. Okay, sometimes the poor farmers become landless. Okay, for their loan for money lender. Okay, and finally the last one is friend and relatives. Here we only we can see the share of sources in total. In 1988, it was 33%, and it has decreased, and it becomes 26%. So in commercial banks is still same after 20 years, right? And the contribution of NGOs and MFI has increased, right?
Yes, ma'am.
In 1988, it was 6%, and and after 20 years, it has become 37%. Okay, so
Yes.
huge change, right? And money lenders also has decreased, and friends and relatives also decreased. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so now in conclusion, we can say which types of source are now contributing well.
NGOs and MFIs.
Okay, good. So, thank you everyone for your participation.